Hey guys, I wanted to come on here and give my thoughts to the UFC card, which actually this one kind of snuck up on me. Um, Kind of looked up and seen that basically last week that we got Covington versus Woodley. That's the main event, but this card from head to toe is phenomenal. At least the main card is. The undercard's got a bunch of fighters that I don't really know too much about. But this main card is absolutely stacked. I can't wait. I'm super pumped for it. It's gonna be at the UFC Apex Saturday night, September 19th, which is technically tonight. It's gonna start at 8 o'clock, Las Vegas, Nevada. Can't wait to see it. Um, I don't think they're gonna have fans there, not yet, but I think they're nearing. They're nearing having fans back in the building, so that's exciting. Um, Got to give it up to the UFC. They were really the first ones back, at least here in America, when it comes to professional sports. They've been pumping out these fights left and right, man. It's like they didn't miss a beat. So all the credit has to go to Dana White and the matchmaker Sean Shelby. The reason why I say that the fans are probably going to be back soon is because obviously we're getting college football back, and there's some fans in the stands at the NFL games, but also when they did the press conference for this event, they actually had the reporters in the room, and that's something they haven't had, at least recently. Also, I'm going to talk about this once we get to the main event. I'm going to speak about the actual press conference because it was very interesting. But all right, let's get into it. Don't want to be on here too long. Just want to keep it nice, short, and sweet. The first fight on the card is Kevin Holland and Darren Stewart. Kevin Holland is a minus 260 favorite. Both fighters are very similar. They have good striking. Holland probably has the better jiu-jitsu, but Holland's a big 185er. He's 6'3". I believe. Let me see. I believe they're both coming off victories. Holland's got a 2-fight win streak going. And let's see about Stewart. Trying to see here. Stewart looks like he's got a 2-fight win streak as well. If I had to pick somebody in this, I'd probably go with the underdog. I think Stewart's going to take him out probably by TKO, maybe second round. But this fight's basically a toss-up if you ask me. Even though minus 260 Holland, that's pretty good for a favorite, but I'm going to go with Stewart in this fight. The next fight it's a women's strawweight fight. It's Mackenzie Dern and Randa Marcos. Both girls are really good with jiu-jitsu. Randa probably has the better striking. Mackenzie is a minus 160 favorite, so basically a push, not a huge favorite at all, actually. And she's coming off a win against Cyphers, who it was a quick submission. I believe I remember watching that one. And Cyphers was a newcomer. It wasn't an impressive win. Before that, Amanda Ribas took out Mackenzie in a decision. But this is definitely a step up for Dern, a big test for her. And honestly, I haven't really been impressed. Her striking needs a lot of work. And Randa's a veteran. Her record's awful. Don't get me wrong, 10-9-1, but she's fought much tougher, much stiffer opponents, much better competition Marcos has faced. Ribas beat her in her last fight, but Marcos, she's lost to Claudia. She's lost to all the good fighters. I mean, I want to say, if I remember correctly, Alexa Grasso beat her, and I think she beat Esparza. She beat Carla Esparza back in the day, a couple of years ago, I believe. So I just haven't been impressed with Mackenzie. She could absolutely catch Randa in a submission, and quickly. She's very good jiu-jitsu, but I'm going to go with the underdog again. I think Marcos is going to take her out, most likely a late TKO or decision. But now we get into the meat and potatoes. This is when it starts getting good, man. It's Johnny Walker and Ryan Spann. Johnny Walker was one of the top up-and-comers. He had a couple injuries. He had a couple losses. In fact, he lost to Krylov in his last fight. Corey Anderson beat him before that. But that's, I believe, before the Anderson fight is when he had the injury. This was back in, I believe, the early 2019. Johnny Walker beat Serkinov, who was an up-and-comer as well. But ever since that injury, man, Walker, he really wasn't the same. But this time he made a change. He's fighting, or he's training with Conor McGregor's coach out in Ireland. So the change of camps, man, you never really know how that's gonna go. But for Johnny Walker, for someone that's young and still pretty early in his career, I think it might do him a lot of good. And he's huge for 205, or 6'6", 205, big dude from Brazil. Ryan Spann, trying to look at his past fights. He beat Sam Alvey. He beat Clark. He beat Little Nogueira back in May of 2019. So he's on a nice little streak. It actually an 8-fight win streak, but the last 3 fights in particular is when he had to step up in competition. He's on a roll. I want to say he hasn't had that much time off, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Yeah, it was just in May when he beat Sam Alvey. He beat him in a decision. The guy is on a roll. He's only got 4 wins by knockout. He's not a very explosive fighter at 205, but 11 wins by decision. Very crafty. Very well-rounded fighter. They have Johnny Walker as the favorite in this fight, and because I know how talented he is and the potential that he has, I really think he's going to get the job done. Don't ask me why. They're both, Walker's ranked 11th, Spann is ranked 12th. Minus 125, that's basically a push. I have to go with Walker. I think he gets the job done. Probably decision. Possibly. He might catch him early. Walker is definitely the bigger, more explosive guy. And I just got a feeling that the camp is going to do him good. The change of camps. The next fight is a middleweight bout. Huge favorite. Hamzat Chimaev against Gerald Meerschaert. This should be an obliteration. Chimaev is on an 8-fight win streak, 5 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's 8-0, hasn't been beaten. Meerschaert is kind of, I guess, a journeyman. you would say. 31-13 and is his record. But he's been around for a while, but he hasn't fought anyone close to Chimaev. Chimaev is great. He's actually got 2 fights booked. That never happens. He has this fight booked and he has another fight coming up, which is like, a lot of people think that it's like disrespectful to have 2 fights booked because it's kind of like you're looking past your opponent. But this guy is very good. He's drawing comparisons to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is, of course, the undefeated lightweight champion. He's drawing comparisons, and for good reason, of being the bigger Khabib. So it should be just a destruction. So Chimaev, definitely going all the way with him. And then we go to the co-main event, man. One of my favorite fighters. One of my favorite fighters of all time, man. Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I think Cerrone is one of those. He's one of those fighters where he's pretty much universally loved. If you're a UFC fan, you love Donald Cerrone because that guy, he fights everyone. He'll fight everyone back to back to back to back to back. He doesn't give a shit. He's a fun dude. He goes in there, he'll fight anybody anytime. Here's the problem. He's getting up there in age. 36-15 career record. The guy has had a shit ton of fights. And he's fought the best, particularly recently. He fought Anthony Pettis back in May. He fought McGregor back in January. Conor McGregor. He fought Justin Gaethje, who's now fighting Khabib for the title coming up shortly. And before Gaethje, he fought Tony Ferguson. That's 4 fights against the best in the world. Champions, former contenders, you name it, he's fought it. Here's the problem. He's lost all 4 of those fights. And particularly, he has not looked good. Ferguson knocked him out. Gaethje knocked him out in the first round. McGregor knocked him out in 40 seconds into the first round. And the Pettis, I think he went to a decision. Yeah, Pettis, it was a decision. Cerrone has not looked good in those last 4 fights. But again, some of the best in the world, man. And some who will probably go down as all-time greats, possibly Hall of Famers. His opponent is Nico Price. Nico, trying to see here. I think he's on a 2-fight losing streak, if I remember. Nope, just 1. He lost his last fight against Vicente Luque. That was back in May 9th. Before that, he beat... who did he beat? He beat James Vick by knockout in the first round. Vick's a solid fighter. He always has been. This is a tough one to call. I know I sound like a broken record, but they have Nico as a -140 favorite. Now, if you know anything about Cerrone, if he's in fights that guys try to get in his head and he's kind of taking it a little too seriously, he usually doesn't do well in those fights. He's never done very well when it comes to the high pressure, high tension fights. But where he thrives is the fights where he's just having fun. You can just see him smiling ear to ear, happy and ready to go. He's ranked 14 even with the last 4 losses. Nico is unranked. Nico is the minus 140 favorite. I think, and this is from watching the press conference, which I said I'd talk about that. I'll talk about it now. The way they did these press conferences yesterday. Today was the weigh-ins. Yesterday they had actually Cerrone and Price were the two main fighters sitting right next to Dana White. Usually that's reserved for the main event. Now the reason why they had Covington and Woodley do their press conference separate, and not just the fact that they did the press conference separate, but they did it one at a time. But I'll talk about that in a second. My point is Donald Cerrone. He was in there. He was laughing. Nico Price was kind of like giving him all kinds of props and calling Cerrone a legend. And Cerrone has been in this game far too long to lose to Nico Price. I mean, yeah, he's lost 4 in a row, but I cannot bet against him, against Nico. I just can't do it. I'm taking the underdog, Donald Cerrone. Maybe he might catch him with a head kick. He's definitely got the better striking than Nico. Nico's a dog, don't get me wrong, but I'll say second round TKO for Donald. And we'll see what he decides to do from there. If he loses, I really think he should, especially if he loses by knockout and it's bad, he should probably think about hanging him up, because you don't want to take too many knockouts at the end of your career and end up being unhealthy. I believe he just had his second kid. You know, it'll be time for Cerrone to move on if he loses this one. I hope he does, and I think Dana White will push him in that direction. But I think Donald gets it done. Now for the main event. Hello Archie in the chat. What's up? The main event, Covington Woodley. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier about them doing the press conference separate and absolutely separate, where only one fighter comes in at a time. Kind of like how they do the post-fight press conference. I cannot remember them doing this like this ever. I've been trying to think about it, and if I looked it up, I could probably figure it out, but this is really unprecedented. And what it comes down to, in my opinion, and I don't know for sure, but they asked Dana when they did the first part with Cerrone and Nico Price and the rest. They asked Dana why they were doing this. And Dana pretty much said that he just wanted the undercard to get some shine. Like I said, if this had been done before and many times before, I could see that. But here's what it boils down to. You have one of the most notorious heels, bad guys in the sport with Colby Covington. Colby is Donald Trump's favorite fighter. Donald Trump actually took pictures with him when Donald Trump was doing his rally in Vegas a few days ago. It was Covington, it was Dana White, a few other people. Dana shouted out Justin Gaethje and who else? Cejudo in his speech that night. Anyway, you have Colby Covington there. And on the complete opposite side, you have Tyron Woodley. Tyron is notorious for being, how can I put this? Let's just say he's probably the most woke athlete the UFC has ever had. Okay? And here's why. At the press conference, like I said, they did it separate. First to enter the room was Tyron Woodley. Now Tyron had on, the guy had, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was a Black Lives Matter headband. Or wait, what was it? No, I'm sorry. It was a red "Make America Great Again" hat, but it said "Make racists catch that fade again," which I'm assuming means catch an ass whooping. And he had "Black Lives Matter" and huge white letters on a black T-shirt. And every question they asked him, he pretty much gave a non-answer to every question and followed it up with Black Lives Matter. He pulled a Marshawn Lynch. If you remember when Marshawn Lynch did the whole "I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined." Well, Woodley pulled the blah, 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 Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 Black Lives Matter. It was ridiculous. It was cringe. It was all of that. And I was looking in the comments section of that video, and he was just getting destroyed, and yeah, he deserved it. Let's just be honest. It was awful. It was disrespectful. It was immature. All of that. So beyond that, Colby Covington comes in next, and he has on this crazy green like pimp suit on with the classic "Make America Great Again" hat. He looked a lot more serious than he usually is. He still took his shots. He was still a smart ass. He still did, a few jabs here and there with the shit talk. And but there was just something about him. There was a tone that was different. Now, coming into today, which was technically Friday, they did the weigh-ins, and this was the first time they were face to face. Colby was looking at Woodley in a way that just he just looked more dedicated. He looked more serious. And his Woodley had a t-shirt on, but Covington had his shirt off. So I can't really tell what kind of shape Woodley's in. He's always in great shape, and I wouldn't think that he would be anything else for this fight. But when you looked at Colby, he was shredded. He had this look in his eyes. He was staring Woodley down. Woodley had the glasses on, so you couldn't really tell if he was looking in his eyes. I don't know. I just got a really good feeling about Colby and the way he handled himself with the press leading up to the fight. Now, as far as the fight itself, I'll tell you what. Let's look at it. Actually, let's look at Colby's last fight. Let's look at his last fight. I believe he won his last one and then he lost. Or no. Last fight was a title. That's right. That was the title fight against Usman. Usman took him out in the 5th round and pretty much dominated him. But Usman's another beast. He's a different animal, so we're not talking about that right now. The fight before that is when Colby dominated another one of my favorite fighters, Robbie Lawler. Beat him in a decision, but he thoroughly handled him. Before that, Covington beat Dos Anjos. He beat Damian Maia. And before that, some guys that really aren't that good. But to beat Damian Maia, who's been a title contender for years, the former champion Dos Anjos, and of course the former champion Lawler, he's been very good recently. The only problem with that is that Usman fight was back in December, so he's had almost a year off. For Woodley and his last fights, let's see, the former champion Woodley, he lost to Gilbert Burns back in May. This was May 30th by decision. Did not look good in that fight, if I remember correctly. The fight before that, Usman crushed him, took his belt away, And then before that, he beat Darren Till. He beat Maya, blah, blah, blah. I believe he had 4 title defenses before that. Woodley's last fight was May 30th of this year. That's the thing. He's probably going to be the fresher fighter. And Colby looks like the changed and for the better fighter. Colby's a minus 350. This is what scares me. He's a minus 350 favorite. That's a little disrespectful. It could go 2 different ways. It could go with Colby. It could go with Colby out wrestling Tyron, because Tyron's probably going to want to keep it on the feet. And if so, I think Colby will dominate him. He'll get him up against the cage and do exactly what he did to Robbie Lawler. Now, Tyron, if he keeps it standing, he's going to have to be the aggressor. That's because that's how Colby. That's how you get Colby on the ropes. If you have to put him in places that he doesn't want to be, like get into the clinch, get his back against the cage, get his back on the ground. Wrestlers hate that, especially really, really good wrestlers who aren't used to having their back on the ground. And Woodley can do it. There's no question about it. There's absolutely no question about it. For Woodley to be ranked number 5 and Covington ranked number 2, that tells you how great this division is. The welterweight division is probably, I'd say it's the best division in the UFC, just ahead of lightweight. It's close. Don't get me wrong. It's very, very close. But oh man, I would have to go with Covington because I think he just looks like a different fighter. He looks like in the best shape of his life. And Woodley, with this whole social justice shit and all this stuff, all this outside noise, and how he, I really don't. I've never seen his head like this. I haven't. And I think Covington has been in his head for 2 years now, when they were supposed to fight back when Woodley was the champion. And for some reason, it would always end up with an injury and somebody would back out. I believe they were scheduled to fight at least 2 times, and it never came to fruition. But here we are. So I'm going to take Covington, man. I think he's going to get it done, but I think it's going to be a decision. And with Woodley, he's had a lot of boring fights in his career. He has. But for some reason, this one just has fireworks written all over it. I think Colby's going to use his reach. He's going to use the jab. And he's going to put the pressure on Woodley and get it done by decision. Round 5. 5-round main event, baby. It's a great one. I can't wait. And then after this, we have the Gaethje and Khabib fight coming up shortly after. So many good fights coming up. Once again, the UFC has been killing it. They're keeping the ball rolling. They're not missing a beat. And I absolutely love it. If you guys watch this and you want to play along, put your picks in the chat. Go for it. I'd like to see what you think about these fights and see how well you do. Because I'm probably going to get them all wrong. But, hey, it is what it is, man. I'm just happy to be able to watch these fights. So, thanks for watching. If you want to give it a like, I appreciate it. If you want to subscribe, I really appreciate it. And I'm going to start doing more of these UFC videos, and I'll get even more in depth as we go along, man, because I love this shit. It's one of my favorite things in the world is UFC and MMA in general. Always been a huge fan. I've trained. I've went to events. This shit's in my blood, man. It really is. So like I said, put your picks in the chat. Play along. Let's see how you do compared to how I do. Just a little friendly competition. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.